Good evening, Dumfries. It is my pleasure to present the proposed fiscal plan for fiscal year 2022 and the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2022 through 2026. I would first like to thank my staff for their hard work and innovative thinking that went into creating our fiscal plan. I would also like to thank the Town Council for being visionary leaders. And most importantly, I want to thank you, our residents. It is an honor to serve you, and your input was critical to our efforts. The previous year was a challenging one in many ways, but over the past 12 months, we have proven our resiliency, our determination, and our courage. And even as we continue to battle through this global pandemic, we have reason to be excited. For our plan to make Dumfries a destination still stands. Tonight, I provide you with an overview and enhancement detail of the FY22 proposed fiscal plan and the corresponding 5-year capital improvement plan. For localities, our primary strategic planning tool is our budget, and our budget is built upon a solid foundation. This budget was developed in adherence to sound financial practices. All revenues equal expenditures, complying with the legal requirement to have a balanced budget. Structural balance is achieved with one-time revenues being dedicated only in support of one-time expenditures. And unlike in years past, no transfers from the unassigned fund balance were used to balance this budget. The published document provides the public a complete overview of the town's fiscal plan, inclusive of debt service, fund balance, and capital projects. The proposed FY22 capital budget includes projects directly related to community feedback and is funded with grants and pay-as-you-go cash, thus having no impact on our debt capacity. Additionally, we continue to make strides in performance-based budgeting as performance measures have been refined for each key agency. Proof positive of our solid foundation and adherence to best practices, the town received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association for the second consecutive year, and only the second time in town history. GFOA established the Distinguished Budget Presentation Awards program in 1984 with the goal of encouraging and assisting state and local governments in preparing budget documents of the very highest quality and that reflect both the guidelines established by the National Advisory Council on State and Local Budgeting and GFOA's best practices on budgeting. Then recognizing individual governments that succeed in achieving this goal. The application and review process is extremely thorough. My staff and I are honored and humbled to have been recognized by the authority on the presentation of financial documents. Now that we have reviewed foundation and format, let's get to the numbers. Our total proposed FY22 general fund budget is $5.8 million. This represents a 4% increase from the previous fiscal year. Revenue projections reflect growth in real estate and key local tax categories. Revenues from real estate are up 15%, which is partially attributable to new residential and commercial development within the town. Local taxes, such as sales tax and meals tax, account for over 45% of the town's revenue. In FY22, revenues for sales and meals tax are projected to be up 57% and 22% respectively over the previous fiscal year. Also, gaming tax revenue generated solely by the recently opened Rosie's Gaming Emporium represents over 8.5% of our total revenue, making it a significant driver for our general fund. Our projected revenue picture allows us to continue to make investments in our strategic priorities without raising taxes or fees. Now, some of you may ask, how are we able to grow despite the ongoing and wide-ranging impacts of the pandemic? Well, my short answer is by design and not default. The growth we are experiencing can be attributed to a combination of factors: application of best practices, strategic planning, and federal assistance. At this time last year, I presented a budget for the fiscal year 2021 at the early stages of the global shutdown. While initial forecast models had predicted significant increases in our revenues, due to the economic uncertainty caused by the pandemic, most of the revenue growth was removed and new spending was delayed. The hard work of town staff to make this pivot in adherence with best practices prevented us from having to manage a shortfall, keeping us with a solid foundation for fiscal year 22. Secondarily, our strategic efforts to grow and support our tax base allowed our industries to be resilient through the past year. Property values continue to rise, and the creation of additional commercial and residential properties has improved our real property stock. The restaurant industry has faced unique impacts, and while we understand that many continue to struggle, many of the town's food establishments have posted strong numbers, boosting our meals and sales tax revenues. Additionally, the opening of Rosie's Gaming Emporium created a unique and significant revenue stream for the town with exponential future growth potential. Finally, the assistance received through federal relief programs ensured that we not only could continue services in new and improved ways, but also allowed us to provide relief directly to people, businesses, and nonprofits that needed the most. Now that our revenue picture is in focus, let's review our expenditure highlights by agency. Times such as these remind us that the operation of government cannot continue without our number one resource, our employees. The previous year budget included enhancements aimed at retaining and valuing our staff, including expanded healthcare coverage and standard cost of living adjustments. Additionally, to remain competitive within the Northern Virginia region, we increased starting pay for police officers. As a result, the department has retained 100% of field officers and hired 4 additional officers. To continue our investments in our workforce and remain competitive in our region, the proposed FY22 budget includes a 4% cost of living adjustment for all town employees. Our administration agency includes finance, DMV Select, the clerk's office, and special events. In FY22, we have included additional funding to support implementation of audit recommendations, including making improvements to billing, tax collection, and software upgrades. In Public Works, our focus for the upcoming year will be bringing capital improvement projects to completion. Our top priority continues to be the Route 1 widening project. Last July, the town was awarded funding to support right-of-way acquisition and construction. With all the necessary funding in place, the town has partnered with Prince William County to bring this game-changing project to fruition. In Stormwater Management, funding has been included to support improvements for stormwater control structures, outfall screening, and public outreach. This includes a $75,000 transfer to support capital infrastructure. These efforts will ensure continued permit compliance for our municipal separate storm sewer system. For the governing body, the travel and training line has been increased to support additional training opportunities as reopening phases make in-person gatherings viable. Boards and commissions also will see increased funding for travel and training to support required trainings for newly appointed members. In the debt service agency for FY22, a savings of approximately $32,000 is realized as a result of the recent 2020 refunding of the VML Series 2010K bond. These savings serve as another example of the benefits of adhering to best practices. Over the past year, our Department of Planning and Community Development has been quite productive. The department led our 5-year comprehensive plan update and corresponding local zoning ordinance amendments. Additionally, staff completed a small area plan for Main Street, a critical catalyst to making Dumfries a destination. Enhancements in FY22 include additional funding for the Destination Dumfries initiative, which will incentivize development, support facade improvements, business attraction and retention, and support community amenities such as a farmer's market and the like. Funding to establish an affordable housing program has also been allocated to support the goals of the comprehensive plan through the preservation and improvement of local affordable housing stock. The establishment of this program will also serve as a catalyst for development, as well as another example of best practice for responsible community development. Funding has also been included to support software upgrades, including GIS programming to display local zoning maps. During the past year, public safety has often been at the forefront. We grappled with the daily reporting of lives lost due to coronavirus, incidents of racism and violence against communities of color, and civil unrest, even within the hallowed halls of our democracy. This summer, following the death of George Floyd, an unarmed Black man killed at the knee of a police officer in Minneapolis, our department began a review of department policies and procedures, including use of force and de-escalation protocols. As our primary public safety agency, our police department is committed to ensuring that Dumfries is a safe and vibrant community for all people. Our department has a history of positive public engagement and community policing. For the safety and transparency of our officers in the community, this budget includes funding to outfit every officer with new body-worn cameras. Additionally, increased funding for training and employee development has been allocated to ensure that our officers remain skilled in law enforcement and community policing best practices. Last but not least, for the general fund, our municipal building agency has been added to this year's document to reflect the operations and revenues generated through our ownership of this multi-use facility. Moving over to our capital improvement plan, last year, my team and I presented one of the boldest capital improvement plans in recent history. The proposed capital improvement plan for FY22 through 2026 reflects continued efforts to complete projects already underway. All capital projects in the current plan are funded entirely by grants and pay-as-you-go cash, thus having no impact on our debt capacity. For FY22, the budget is $100,000, which will establish a major park renovation fund and support stormwater infrastructure. Significant staff time will be devoted to completing previously approved capital projects, including our game-changing Route 1 widening project. Our review of our budget is a public process. On April 1st, the proposed budget was distributed to Town Council and published on the town website. All of our fiscal plan documents can be accessed directly from our homepage, simply by clicking on the town budget icon. In addition to the fiscal plan documents, we will also share recordings of tonight's presentation and the CIP presentation to be delivered to the Planning Commission following their April 12th meeting. I invite everyone to join us on April 13th for a community budget Q&A session. This meeting will be held virtually via Zoom. A flyer with the meeting link is also posted on the town website. The public hearing and budget adoption is scheduled for May 4th's town council meeting. Prior to the public hearing, citizens can provide feedback on the budget in the comment section of our town budget webpage. Alternatively, comments can be emailed to pio@dumfriesva.gov. In closing, I'd like to reiterate that the FY22 fiscal plan was completed in adherence with sound financial practices. Our fiscal plan addresses where we are currently and provides a roadmap to our future. Destination, Dumfries. Thank you.